I guess I wasn't the typical child in the sense that I was always intellectually curious. I was never satisfied with just going to church, and the typical Christian scenario is you go to church on Sunday, you commit sins the rest of the week, do whatever you want, and then you just repent on Sunday. I mean, I was never satisfied. I always saw that as being hypocritical, and it was not very satisfying, etc. So I was always questioning the theology of Christianity, why they believe in this, etc., etc. So I never was just satisfied with people saying believe and just accept it. Like my brother, I would get in arguments with my pastor. I mean, literally, he would kick me out of his office too. Like, we would question, because they don't welcome deep theological questions, because they're not stupid. They understand the problems in their theology just as well as I did. And they don't have very good answers a lot of the time. They tend to focus on the community and the goodwill and charity and, doing good to your fellow man, etc., which is great. I mean, I'm all for that, and I was very happy that they did do that. But at some point, it's like eating junk food. You want something more substantial, something more spiritually nourishing, etc. So I would continuously ask questions, and I wouldn't get very satisfying answers. So as a result of that, I started doing a lot of my own research. They couldn't comprehend why I would even care. Like, all of them were Christian because their parents were Christian. I mean, frankly, if you ask them, that's why they're Christian. Unfortunately, like why most Muslims are Muslim. I know I'm skipping ahead, but most people in general tend to, like the Qur'an says, we found our fathers following this religion, so we're following in their footsteps. So most people in general are like that, including Christians. And so most of them didn't think that deeply about it and didn't care that much about it. They, like my brother was mentioning, went through confirmation class, which was kind of the genesis. They just saw that this as a class they had to take and pass the test and get through it so they could be considered a member of the church and they could take communion. I didn't see it that way. I saw it as an experience to really delve deeply into the philosophical, theological underpinnings of the church. But I was pretty much, me and my brother were the only people that saw that. Nobody else did. They're just like, okay, when's the final exam? What do we need to study? That's how they thought of it. So, but the pastor, he was frustrated with us. So he communicated that frustration. My grandfather was frustrated because I would ask him, like he was telling you, I would look at the Bible and I would say, okay, this is the Gospel of John. And then I would look in the notes in the Bible and I would say, the author anonymous. And I would say, okay, to my grandpa, I'd say, so they call it the Gospel of John. Did John write it? And he would say, yeah, John wrote it. And I said, oh, so I don't know how much you know about Christianity. So I would say, you mean the disciple of Jesus, John? And he would say, well, we're not really sure. Somebody named John probably. So I would start asking these kind of questions, and I would get very either unsatisfactory answers, or they just didn't know, and they would try to hide their own ignorance by making up an answer, etc. So I was never satisfied with that. So I would do my own research. I couldn't find it. So my brother was telling the story, but I'll retell it. It's basically the same story about we were taught, there were several classes in our church about Islam, and they were of course very negative, and this is a cult, and etc. etc. I still remember those. I mean, as I was going through it, I was just like, I felt like I was going to fall on the floor just from, I said, all of the things that I found in the Bible that I knew were not true. It's like, here's the Qur'an coming and correcting it and even explaining more. I mean, more than I could have ever imagined would be in a book was in that book. It was as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as if God was reading my thoughts and telling me, okay, you've been thinking all this, okay, I'm going to give you the answers right here. Here's all the answers you've been searching for. Here you go, 1, 2, 3. And subhanAllah, and I remember for about a week, I didn't do anything else. I didn't go to work, I didn't go to school. All I did was just read the Quran. And by the end of that time, I mean, I just said, this has to be the truth. I mean, there's no human being could write a book like this. It's impossible. No person could have ever come up with this. It has to be from God. It's too comprehensive. It's too amazing. It speaks directly to your heart in a way that nothing else does. Nothing else could, you know. After I had pretty much, I mean, in my heart, I knew that I was going to become Muslim.